Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today, as it is every day, as this is the virtual water cooler show we do every afternoon, talking about whatever topic you guys want to talk about, mostly movies, a little bit of television show, even a few other things here and there, if you guys so choose to throw them in there. So, without any further ado, let's dive right in to the questions you guys are sending in live, and we get things started today with, who are we starting with? Adam Griffin, who sends in, music industry fandom celebrates and encourages covers of their favorite artists. Film industry fandom reviles and discourages remakes. What do you think is the difference in these two fandoms causing this? That's a good question. I mean, I for one have never understood people's aversion to remakes. I'm totally good. A new incarnation, a different storyteller telling a familiar story. I've always been open to them. I like them. And yes, sometimes, oftentimes, remakes suck, but sometimes remakes are amongst the best films ever made. Scarface, The Fly, John Carpenter's The Thing, all remakes. There have been, Departed is a remake, and it won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. I mean, the list goes on and on. Here's the thing. A lot of people say, well, if you can't make it as good as the first one, you shouldn't do it. BS. That's BS. Because that's like saying, oh, if you can't make a movie as good as The Godfather, you shouldn't make a new movie. Now, why? Just because it's not as good as the first one doesn't mean it's still not good and still not enjoyable. Think of the best steak you ever had in your life. Are you saying you'll never eat another steak again because you're not going to have one that's as good as that steak? You know, filet mignon, I had filet mignon once, and you'll never be able to make it as good as that, so I'm never eating filet mignon again. No, you still eat it. Even if it's not as good as the best one you ever had, it's still good, it's delicious, and you enjoy it. Now, again, a lot of remakes, just like a lot of movies that are originals, turn out to suck, but sometimes they're good. So I've never understood the aversion to remakes, to be honest with you. But you're right, there is a difference. The music industry tends to celebrate covers and remakes, whereas the film industry, a lot of the fans don't. And I've honestly never understood the difference between the two, or why some people feel that way. I just don't get it. It's not as if somebody remakes a movie and the original version suddenly disappears. You know, it disappears. Oh, we can't ever watch it again because now there's a new version. It's never happened. Other than Star Wars special editions, that's one exception to that. All right, let's move on. Next question comes to us from Patrick Conway, who writes, great news, Coulson is back in Captain Marvel, yes. So for those of you who missed it a couple hours ago, the news dropped that Clark Gregg, the guy who plays Agent Coulson, one of the only 2 or 3 good things about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he is, and it makes sense that he would, he is officially coming back to the MCU movie universe, sort of, in the 1990s era set Captain Marvel. So that totally makes sense. Since Samuel Jackson's there as Director Fury, it makes sense that Coulson would be there as well. But also, 2 other actors are coming back. One, we've got Lee Pace, who plays Ronan the Accuser in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's going to be in the movie as well as Jaimon Hansu, who plays the Pursuer, who is like kind of, Ronan's right-hand guy in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's coming back, and he's going to be in the movie as well. I'm excited hearing about all of them. I'm stoked. I can't wait. This is going to be great, man. This is going to be great. All right. AFC writes, do I miss any valuable info if I skip the Star Wars prequels? None. None. You miss nothing important. You can never watch one of the prequels and you will totally get the original trilogy. You will totally get all the new films. Everything is fine. You do not need to watch the prequels. Now, notice what I'm saying. There are a lot of people out there who love the prequels. I'm not saying there aren't people who really enjoy the prequels. And some people might tell you you should watch the prequels because you enjoy them. But from a continuity point of view, there is nothing vital you learn in the prequels that it's like there's nothing in the prequels that you will not understand the new movies at all if you don't watch the prequels. None of that is true. So whether you like or love or hate the prequels is irrelevant. You can watch all the new movies having skipped the prequels and then you're not missing anything important. So if you choose to, you can skip the prequels, yes. Let's see. Beeper5 writes, why does domestic box office include Canada? Well, mostly I think the reason when they say domestic box office, for those you don't know, that's Canada and the US. Canada and the US are not seen as separate box office territories. Why? I'm not really sure how it got started. Probably most likely because the marketing is for, when you do a marketing campaign in North America, it's really North America wide. The movies always release on the same date in Canada and the US. They never release on different dates in Canada and the US, once they go wide, that is. So they really have always just treated it as one market for marketing, for release dates, for all that kind of stuff. It's generally treated the same. So yeah, a lot of people don't realize that when you hear domestic, that includes Canada. Canada is included in domestic box office. So when you hear about the domestic box office totals opening weekend numbers, that includes Canada and the US. I'm not sure if that includes Mexico. Somebody asked me that once, like, if does that include all of North America? And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure off the top of my head if that includes all of North America or just United States and Canada. But I at least know it includes the United States and Canada. All right, let's move on here. Orange Hand writes, as a Canadian, are you a fan of BN? Oh, the ladies, Bare Naked Ladies. I totally shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna do this. Am I a fan of the Bare Naked Ladies? Okay, I'm gonna regret doing this. I haven't done this in forever. I don't even know if I know the song. Hold on a second here. If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, I would buy you a house. Oh, I would buy you a house. If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, I'd buy furniture for your house. Yep, like a Chesterfield or an ottoman. And if I had $1 million, I'd buy your love. Oh, wow. Oh, and if I had $1 million, I'd build a tree fort in our yard. And if I had $1 million, you could help, it wouldn't be that hard. And if I had $1 million, I'd be rich. That's enough of that. Sorry, dude. I don't know why I suddenly did that. Was I a fan of the Bare Naked Ladies? Damn right, I'm a fan of the Bare Naked Ladies. I love the Bare Naked Ladies. As a matter of fact, true story. I was once, sorry to subject you to that. I don't know why I did that. Anyway, I was once working as a roadie one summer. Working with a buddy of mine, and there was this big music festival, and I was working as a backstage roadie for it, and Bare Naked Ladies was actually one of the bands. And I was doing the loading in, setting up stage, all that kind of stuff. So they show up. We had to do like 12 bands that day. Bare Naked Ladies show up, and instead of going off to the craft tent to just hang out and eat, they hung out with all the crew. And they played hacky sack with the crew and whatever, and they were great guys to hang out with. And it's not that particular guitar pick, but the guys gave me a couple of their guitar picks, and I still have them. I still have the guitar picks that the Bare Naked Ladies gave me. So yes, I'm a big Bare Naked Ladies fan. Ho, me now much a hoodwink. I make you stop think. You're thinking, looking at Aquaman. How someone fish to the dish of the way like the chalet, special like the sushi, because it's never touch a frying pan. Hot like wasabi when I bust rhymes, just like Leanne rhymes. Okay, anyway. You guys get the point. I love the Bare Naked Ladies. Big fan to this day. Anne actually took me and surprised me because the Bare Naked Ladies played a show in California about a year or two ago. And Anne surprised me by buying tickets. And we went to go see Bare Naked Ladies. Anne had never heard them before, and she loved them. They put on a great show. It was a good time. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. I just went off my own little thing. Okay, Chris Martin writes, I don't even know if anybody's still watching the show after I did that. Everybody might have left. Chris Martin writes, just watched the Director and the Jedi documentary. Awesome. Great seeing you in the OG crew. Yeah, it was a really pleasant surprise. Of course, you guys have probably heard me talk about this on the Star Wars The Last Jedi Blu-ray. There is a feature called The Director and the Jedi. It's like a 2-hour documentary on the Blu-ray, and I'm in it just for like 5 seconds. I mean, that's it, but that was a really pleasant surprise. Thanks for mentioning that, Chris. Time Lord writes, My friends say I'm crazy because I like the Jack Nicholson Joker better than the Heath Ledger Joker. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying Heath wasn't great, but I prefer Nicholson. Am I crazy? No, actually, I know a bunch of people. Who think Heath Ledger's Joker is great, but to them, Jack was the better Joker. I mean, not a majority of people, but you're not alone in that. There are a bunch of people out there who really love what Jack brought to the Joker. You know, a lot of people love him. And I've heard a lot of debates about who's better. I mean, look, Jack's Joker and Heath's Joker are two clearly very different characters. And they're portrayed in very different ways. But they're both great. And if you prefer Jack over Heath, you might be in the minority, but it's not as small of a minority as you think. There's a lot of people who totally love Jack's Joker, even more than Heath's Joker. There are a lot of people like that out there. Don't feel bad about that. Patrick Conway writes, hope CW considers a Scooby show if Scooby Natural works. No. Look, it's one thing to do something spoofy, but just one special episode of a particular TV show does not make for a new series. So I honestly, I cherish Scooby-Doo. I don't want them to make a new one, to be honest with you. I like the Scooby-Doo as it is, but have them brought in like this. Here's what I hope. If the episode goes well, I hope they'll do it again one time, like next season. I hope they bring that back. Okay, so, sorry, I just have like 50 different emails just come into me about something totally different. Nothing bad, just totally different. Okay, let's see. Next one comes to us from Chris Martin, who writes, but John, I need my Man of Steel 2 and it needs to be amazing. Yeah, well, look, I would love for them to do a Man of Steel 2. I would rather them reboot, but if you're not going to reboot, give me Man of Steel 2, because Man of Steel is simply the best movie that the DCEU has done so far. Chris follows up, have you seen Geppetto starring Drew Carey? The Whose Line Is It Anyway? R wouldn't let him live it down. I think he meant I. No, I haven't seen it. To be honest, I haven't even heard of it. It's funny now because a lot of people now, when you mention Drew Carey, they don't think of Whose Line Is It Anyway? They think of Price is Right. So that's, you can tell when somebody's 18 and when somebody's 30. That mention to somebody, Drew Carey, the people who are closer to 30 are like, whose line is it anyway? People closer to 18 are like, the guy from Price is Right. It's a totally different thing. Time Lords writes, what was Arnold's best acting performance? I would say a movie he did just a couple of years ago called Maggie with, what's her name? Abigail Breslin. That he did with Abigail Breslin. It's about a dude whose daughter has caught the zombie virus, and it takes days for them to turn, and he stays with her, and it's a good performance. It's not just a good Arnold performance, it's a good performance. Probably my favorite acting job that Arnold Schwarzenegger has done so far. All right, next one comes to us from Scott Mick, who writes, in new Infinity War promo, you hear a voice say, the end is near. Sounds like Peter Dinklage to me. Ebony Maw. That's funny because I was just talking to somebody about that. A lot of people assume because that statement is tied together almost in one seamless sentence with the next statement that comes from Thanos. A lot of people think that's Thanos saying the end is near. If you listen really closely, that ain't Josh Brolin saying it. I'm not convinced it's Peter Dinklage, and I don't know which character it really is. It's possible it's Ebony Maw. It could be one of the other ones as well. But it's not Josh Brolin. It's not Thanos saying that statement. So I'm glad you caught that because I was having that exact same discussion with somebody the other day. All right, Chris writes, I feel like there are some movies or TV shows that should just not become musicals, like Shrek and SpongeBob. I'll admit, I really want to see Frozen when it tours. I'm actually seeing Aladdin on my birthday. Do you mean musicals as in like Broadway musicals? Well then, I don't know about that. Like, you can turn anything into a Broadway musical if you want. I mean, just because something doesn't have music in its original incarnation doesn't mean you can't make a musical out of it. So I think I'll disagree with you on that one, Chris. I don't think there's anything, unless it's like a Schindler's List or something really tragic and awful and depressing, despite the fact that it's got a great message in it. I'm not sure that I agree. I think if you have somebody very creatively talented that has a gift for telling stories in a musical way, they could take almost any kind of a story and make it musical. Doesn't mean it's going to be good, doesn't necessarily mean it'll be bad, but I think just about anything can be. and can work as a musical. Doesn't mean it will, but I think just about anything can, provided it's not like a super depressing and horrifying kind of story. Chris Martin writes, have you seen the show Impractical Jokers? It's hilarious. I've seen a few episodes. It's not my cup of tea, to be honest. Although, my buddy Ryan and Ray, my brother-in-law, whenever I go over to the house, I feel like that show is always on. If it's not my mother-in-law watching Shopping Network or Hallmark Network movies, then those guys have Impractical Jokers on. Anne loves it too. And I'll admit, I've seen a couple episodes that have made me giggle a lot. I don't dislike it, though. Don't dislike it at all. It's just, again, it's just not my particular cup of tea, which is totally fine. But a lot of my friends love that show. Chris also writes, are you a fan of Chris Daughtry, Season 5 American Idol? Never heard of him. Never watched that show. Patrick Conway writes, will Spider-Man suffer with PTSD following Avengers 3 and 4? We've been talking a lot about whether or how bad Tony Stark's PTSD will get. Well, Spider-Man, I don't know. If they write him well, he should, but he's a teenager. Teenagers are pretty resilient. Time Lords writes, worst fourth movie, Die Hard 4, Pirates 4, Jaws 4, Lethal Weapon 4. I like Lethal Weapon 4. Superman 4. Which of these is the worst fourth movie in a franchise? Ooh. I'll go Pirates 4. Or though Superman 4 is a good one. Jaws 4 is bad. Lethal Weapon 4 I think is great, so I don't know why you got that on the list. Toss up to me between Pirates 4 and Superman 4. You guys jump into the comment section. Which one do you think is the worst out of those? I'd be curious to see what you guys think. Jedi Knight and friend to Captain Solo writes, check out Battlefront 2. Pay to win is gone. It's heaven for Star Wars for a Star Wars fan. Heroes mode is so fun. It has a droid calling the match, making sarcastic comments like Life Day is canceled when Chewie gets killed. I've heard about that, I think. I don't know. I think for me, the boat on Battlefront 2 has sailed. They had an opportunity to get me as a customer. They had an opportunity to get me. And then they blew it with the whole pay to win thing. And maybe they've gotten rid of it now, but it's too late. My enthusiasm, my excitement for it's gone. And I was going to do a cutscene movie review of Battlefront 2. I actually thought it was terrible. I thought the story was bad. And it's funny because I heard a lot of people, including some people who I really respect their opinions when it comes to Star Wars and stuff, who have watched the cutscene movie of Battlefront 2 and thought it was really good. I thought it was actually quite lame. I thought it was really forced, and it just felt like fan fiction to me than true new Star Wars canon. It just felt like bad fan fiction to me. So it's too late. It's like Vader saying, it is too late for me. Like, it's too late for me. All my enthusiasm was shot for Battlefront 2 when, first of all, when the pay to win thing came out, killed all my enthusiasm for it. Doesn't matter. It's too little too late that they've corrected it. Too late. They shouldn't have done it in the first place. The second thing was, then I watched the cutscene movie and I thought it was lame. So I lost most of my enthusiasm for it. But hey, I know some other people that are enjoying the game and liking it, and that's great. I celebrate it. I would never tell anybody not to play it, and I would never tell anybody not to enjoy it but it's, like I said, in Vader's words, it is too late for me. I just couldn't get on board with it now, even if I wanted to. Chris Martin writes, unpopular opinion, but I really like Pirates 5. If that's the most recent one, which I'm not sure if it is, I've lost track. I didn't mind the latest. Oops, sorry, my camera went out. I didn't mind Pirates 5 if I'm thinking of the right pirates. Like, if this most recent Pirates is actually Pirate 5. If this most recent one is Pirates 5, then yeah, I'm totally on board with that. I like it myself, personally. Let's see. Time Lords writes, did you watch the show Heroes, and did you enjoy it? Oh, I talk about Heroes all the time. Heroes Season 1 is the best to me. Season 1 of Heroes was the best single season of television I've ever seen. I've never seen a single season of television that was better put together than Heroes. Heroes was great. I'm not saying overall it's as good as Breaking Bad or overall it's as good as Game of Thrones, but that one season, season 1 of Heroes, I will put that season up against any season of any television show ever. It came off the rails a little bit after season 1 for sure, but that's where I first became a big fan of Milo Ventimiglia, who played Peter Petrelli in the show. and a bunch of other guys there too. But I loved Heroes. I absolutely adored it. Tyler just writes, will we get a Pirates of the Caribbean 6? I don't think so. I think the ship sailed on that. Ha, no pun intended. Get it? I said ship sailed. Let's see. Where are we? Okay, here we go. Chris writes, have you seen Nutty Professor? Great movie. I thought it was okay. I didn't mind Nutty Professor, if we're talking about the remake. The last time which writes, will we get a Norbit 2? No, we're not going to get a Norbit 2. Chris Rorden writes, how pumped are you for Tony Ferguson versus Khabib? Listen, Khabib is a bad, bad man. I am telling you right now, he will beat Tony Ferguson. Then if they do set it up, not that I think that we're ever going to see the Notorious One come back and fight again, but if he does, Khabib's going to beat him too. I am telling you, Khabib is a bad, bad man. This dude is scary. All right? I think the Incredible Hulk would wake up screaming from nightmares of Khabib coming after him. I think John Wick would wake up in cold sweats from nightmares of Khabib coming after him. Khabib is a bad, bad man. And Tony Ferguson is great. I think it's going to be a great fight. But if I had $1 million, I would put it all on Khabib. I really would. And if Tony can shock me, awesome. But because I'm a fan of both of these guys, I really am. And I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm looking forward to it immensely. But yeah, I would put everything I have on Khabib. He is a scary, scary man. So yeah, anyway. Stephen Rowley writes, are you excited for Truth or Dare? I gotta be honest with you, I'm not sure what it is we're talking about, Stephen, sorry. John De Silva writes, 2 more 80s gems I recommend. No Way Out starring, I like that one. No Way Out with Costner and Gene Hackman. That's a good one. No Way Out with Kevin Costner, Gene Hackman, Midnight Run with I like Midnight Run with Robert De Niro. I'm sure you've seen them. Thoughts? Yeah, Midnight Run was good. I liked Midnight Run. No Way Out is a lot better than people give it credit for. I think because it looks kind of cheesy, but I thought it was a solid movie. I really do. Nice recommendations. The 510 Zone writes, hey, John, happy Monday. Thank you so much, 510 Zone. Love the show. With all the remakes being made, one 80s film I thought was underrated was Enemy Mine. Would it work today? Oh, Enemy Mine with Dennis Quaid, Lou Gossett Jr. There was a Star Trek The Next Generation episode that was kind of based on that movie a little bit. So Enemy Mine, if I'm thinking of the right movie, it's been a long time. It's like it's set in the future and Earth has been at war with this alien race. And this one Earth dude and this one alien from that race crash on the same planet. And they're mortal enemies, but they need each other to survive. And it's really good. I've always loved it. I believe you can do a remake of Enemy Mine. I think that story would play well today. Particularly today, I think. So super good recommendation. I hope, now watch, I'm totally talking about the wrong movie, but I'm pretty sure I'm thinking about the right movie. Fantastic film. I really dug it. It's been a while since I've seen it, so there's not a whole ton of visual effects, and they may look cheesy and everything, but yeah, I would recommend it. Now I want to go watch it again. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Dylan Trost writes, over under 30%. Solo has above 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Oh. What's making this question difficult is I think you've set a great line. I think your 30% line as the over-underline is a great line. Over under 30% that Solo scores a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes or higher. 30%. I'm going to take the under. I'll take under on that. Now, if you had set the line at 20, I'd probably take the over. I think it has a chance because, Ron Howard's directing it, so it's got a chance. But at 30, that might be a bit, it's a very good line. I'm going to say 30 is a little bit high, so I'll take the under on it. I'd probably set my line at about 24%, but 30 is a good number, man. 30 is a very, very good number. Andrew Odette writes, what genre should Guillermo del Toro do next? Hey, whatever comes to his imagination. I don't care. I mean, we've seen him do a lot of different types of stuff, like Blade is so different from Pan's Labyrinth, which is so different from, The Shape of Water, which is so different from a number of his films. I would still, like, he's kind of in the same category with me as, say, Christopher Nolan, that I'd love to see him tackle a straight up comedy. It'd be really interesting just to see him do a straight up comedy, see what he can do with that. Let's see. On to Vegas writes, on open mic, somebody mentioned an Alan Rickman film called I'm a Fish. It made me think of Don, yeah, the Don Knotts, right? That's right. The Incredible Mr. Limpet. Do you remember that one? Not great, but I remember it fondly. I do remember it very, very vaguely. In The Incredible Mr. Limpet, doesn't he like help the Navy? Like with landmines? Oh my God, I was a kid when I watched like a rerun, like when I watched it play on TV or something, but he becomes an animated fish, right? And, God, I can't even remember. I remember it, but I can't remember it. You know what I'm talking about? But you're right. It does make you think of that one. Absolutely. Let's see. Tinosflado Mendez writes, you skipped one of my super chats in the John Campea supplementary video. Sorry. Hey, look, honestly, if I did, it was not, look, it's possible that you didn't send it in, that maybe you clicked the wrong button, it didn't send. It is possible. Look, I get like over probably in a day, if you combine the John Campea show and that, and especially over the weekend, like I probably had about 100 questions. It is possible, like as I'm copying and pasting things over, it is possible one gets missed. I wish I could tell you that, oh, it'll never happen again. I wish I could tell you it would never happen again. Mistakes will happen. I don't have an assistant. I don't have somebody writing out the questions for me. I do it all by myself. I got Ray helping me with graphics now and Jonathan helping me with some editing, but everything else I'm just doing by myself. And I've had a couple of people over the past few weeks write to me and say, you missed one of my super chat questions. And I apologize about that. I mean, I certainly don't do it on purpose, but unfortunately, the reality is I can also not look you square in the eye, man to man, and honestly say, I promise it'll never happen again, because mistakes happen. And out of the hundreds of questions that come in, it is possible that from time to time, one gets missed and falls through the cracks. So the best thing I can say is if it got missed, email me, tell me what it was. And then I can either go, because this is the other thing that's happened. I've had people write to me, say, you missed my question. And then they write, and I said to them online, I said, well, I wrote them an email and said, well, tell me what your question was. And if I can, I'll just work it into one of the other shows. And they wrote me the question. I'm like, no, I did answer that one. Go to this video and look here. It was answered. So that might be the case. Maybe you just missed it. Maybe you didn't get it sent in, or maybe it did get sent in and it fell through the cracks. I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfect. I'm not going to pretend that I don't make mistakes, and I'm not going to pretend like I won't make mistakes in the future. The reality is I probably will. So I apologize for that, but all I can say is I'm doing my best. That's all I can say, is that I'm doing the best that I can. And sometimes mistakes will happen, and I'm really sorry to this Vlado, because I know you send in a lot of questions. I know you're a big supporter of the channel. So all I can do is apologize that it happened. But again, I can't promise it won't happen again, because I'd be lying if I said that. Daniel Quintana writes, love you, John. You're the best and my role model. Well, you could probably do for a better role model than me. I just wanted to let you know I'm going to bug you till I get a top 25, 75, 100 movies list. Feel free. I mean, if enough people say they want that from me, then I'll probably consider doing it. It's still not high on my priority list, but if enough people ask for it, maybe it'll happen. Marcus Baldwin writes, will Zimmer keep the X-Men 2 theme for Dark Phoenix? No idea. Absolutely no clue whatsoever on that. It's an interesting question. X-Men 2 theme is one of my favorite parts of the X-Men movies. Yeah, I like the music in the X-Men films. But if you are trying, and I don't know if they're doing this, if you are trying to create separation between what you're doing now and what was done before, one of the best ways to create that separation is with music. If you're trying to create association between what you're doing now and what you did before, one of the best ways of that to do that is music. Like, for instance, I did a quick review of the pilot of Krypton. And while it's its own story, they want you to associate it with Superman. Say they throw in a few bars of the John Williams Superman theme, right? So it's great to create association. But if your goal is the opposite of that, if your goal is to create distinction and not have association, then you don't include any of the old music. So which approach they're taking, I'm not really sure at this point which one they're going to go with. Good question, though, Marcus. Adam Griffin writes, looks like we all got a new ringtone. Bare Naked Ladies, very funny. I shouldn't have done that. I don't know why I did that. I'm in a silly mood today. I don't know why. Andrew Odette writes, John, now we need a second channel. Just okay. Just get it all off your chest. Just go ahead, unload it now. Just get it all out. Just get it all out now. Daniel Quinto writes, what if Tom Hardy doesn't become Venom till the end, but Venom is another person? Then the symbiote possesses Tom Hardy at the end. I would be okay with that. We talked about the other day, and by the way, in case you didn't hear me mention this earlier, Tom Hardy got on social media and denied those rumors that Venom doesn't show up until the very end. He shot those rumors down. But one of the things we talked about the other day on the show was that if Sony had it so full-on out Venom doesn't show up till the very end of the movie, that would be a tragic mistake. Daniel's presenting an interesting idea here. What if we do still see Venom, but it's not Tom Hardy? The symbiote is attached to somebody else, and Venom is expressed through somebody else, and then comes over to Tom Hardy, and then is expressed through Tom Hardy. I'd be okay with that. I don't know if it would make for a good movie or not, but in principle, if you're calling the movie Venom, making sure we see Venom, I think that's acceptable. That would be okay. I'd be okay with that. Not ideal, but I think it would be okay. Good theory there, Daniel. All right. Krieger 119 writes, bravo, that was great. Please start taking requests. No, I'm no singer. Ben Rayner writes, forget merch. I want a John Campea album. A lot of people, when I was especially in college, in high school and college, I played in a number of bands. I was even in a U2 tribute band. That's probably the reason why U2 is my all-time favorite band. But I played in a lot of bands, and we even recorded some demos before. We played a couple big shows. Had a lot of fun, but that was a long time ago, man. That was a long time ago. I am not that guy anymore. Tyler Birdman writes, will you buy The Last Jedi Blu-ray? I got mine today. Probably not, because I'm not really a physical media guy anymore. I get most of my stuff digitally. I am considering getting it just because the Director and the Jedi feature that's on the Blu-ray that I have a 3-second spot in, hi mom, is on it. So I am considering getting it for that, but I'm waiting to see if some of the streaming service or one of the digital services offers the special bonus material digitally as well. If that's the case, then I won't need to get a physical Blu-ray. Next one. Ian Nguyen Du writes, Clark Gregg and Lee Pace cast in Captain Marvel. Yep, we talked about that a little bit off the top of the show. Also, on top of the fact that how great it is they're coming back, don't forget that we have Nick Fury himself. And on top of that, not only is it Clark Gregg and Lee Pace, it's also Jaimon Hansu is coming back as Pursuer as well. So, lots of good news coming out about Captain Marvel. Let's see. Victor Gonzalez writes, have you seen the Netflix mini documentary series, The Keepers? If you have, what are your thoughts? Baltimore pedophilia ring. I have not. I have not even heard of this. And it sounds fascinating, Victor. Sounds fascinating. Thank you for putting that on my radar. I'm going to check it out. Because that sounds fascinating. That sounds like something I'd like to check out. Thank you for sharing that. Goku on DBZ writes, my question is, as a fellow Supernatural fan, how stoked are you for the Supernatural Scooby-Doo crossover episode this week? Can't even put it into words. On social media the other day, I even put up a promotional picture of it and said, my whole life right now is about counting down to this, which is the Scooby-Doo Supernatural crossover episode. I cannot wait. The only question I have is, are the Scooby-Doo people gonna let Dean score with Daphne? Because clearly first of all, you didn't even need the trailer to know that Dean was gonna try to score with Daphne. But will he, because in the trailer, he makes it pretty clear he wants to hit Daphne. Like totally, he wants to get with Daphne. He worships Daphne. He wants to get all up on that. Will it happen? Or will, Fred just be too much of a thing? So we'll find that out, but I'm really excited about it. I think it's gonna be great. Let's see. Andres Samanego Chivira writes, after all the rave reviews here with the community, I decided to start watching Supernatural, really enjoying it in one season in. You know what's funny? I didn't even watch season 1 till a few years ago. I got on board with Supernatural. I think they were already in season 3 by the time I got on board with Supernatural. And then it wasn't until later that I went back and watched seasons 1 and 2. And when I started watching season 1 and 2, it's like, oh my gosh, this is really a different show. The show evolves. It really does. Like, the show today is very different from the show that it was a year ago, but it's great. And I'm really excited that you're on board with it, man. All right, let's see here. This one comes to us from Leo50 Perez, who writes, how do you speak to your camera so naturally? I'm not sure. To be honest with me, there's almost everything in life I do badly. Communicating is one of the things I do pretty well. It's funny because, like, even a lot of people that I've worked with before, when I've tried to get, because if you guys will remember back in the AMC days, and then sometimes at the other place, I started doing, when we didn't have the crew or the staff, I would just do mailbags solo, right? And there were times I tried to talk other staff people into doing the same thing. Like, hey, mailbag this week, can you carry it solo? Can you do mailbag this week solo? And like, none of them would do it. It's like, no, that's not, I can't do that. I need somebody to bounce off of, blah, blah, blah. I can't do it. And it's like, really? This is a thing? So I don't know. I just, maybe it's just because I've watched so much sports talk radio, or sports talk, and listened to a lot of sports talk radio and listened to so many podcasts and all that stuff growing up. It is kind of a natural thing to me. But you guys make it really easy to feel like I am engaged in a conversation with somebody. Right? And that's one of the big things, is that if you got a great audience that participates with you, keeps great fun questions coming in, stuff like that, then it feels like a back and forth conversation if you got the right audience. So I'd say 50% of the reason that it works is you guys. You guys are the ones who make it work. But thank you for asking that, man. That's a really nice compliment. Thank you. Adam K writes, with Infinity War now in April, what's winning the summer? That's the thing. Summer is now such a fluid term. It wasn't so long ago that summer was considered June. Like for the movie season, that June was summer. And then a couple of years ago, all of a sudden we started counting May as summer as well. And now we've got Infinity War in April. I mean, does it not count as a summer movie season because it moved 1 week? Are we letting what it says on a calendar define? I don't know, man. It's a tricky thing. But okay, so let's take it out of consideration. What wins? I think it's either going to be Solo or Deadpool. I'm still going Deadpool. But there are some people who are thinking Solo's going to do a lot better than I think it will. So we'll just have to wait and see. Nova Concepts writes, hey, John, if you were the producer of Man of Steel 2, would you get Zack to direct it? No, I would not. For those of you guys who've watched me for any period of time, while I'm a Zack Snyder fan, you guys know, if it's up to me, one director does not stay on one property too long. I think it zaps away some of their creativity, and I think a franchise can do with fresh blood. So forget whatever your opinion is of Justice League, whatever your opinion is of Batman versus Superman, just take all that out of it. For me, I wouldn't have Zack do it because I love Man of Steel, but I wouldn't have Zack do it because I think Zack needs to move on to other things. I think Zack needs to direct other movies, tell other stories. He's a creative person, and to stay creative and keep their creative knife sharp, they got to be doing new things, exploring new ideas. And I think he would need to move on from this. But I would feel, hey, and look, I'm telling you right now, had it been up to me, I wouldn't have the Russo brothers direct Avengers 4. I love the Russo brothers. That is not a knock on the Russo brothers at all. I love the Russo brothers. But I believe in this premise and this principle. Now, maybe they'll do great and awesome with Avengers 4. They probably will. But to me, I still have that kind of philosophy. That I'd like the directors to move off, do different things, keep their knives sharp, and then come back and do something else. But so that's why I wouldn't have Zack do it. Not because I'm casting any shade on Zack Snyder, but I believe any director shouldn't stay on one property for too long. There are exceptions, but that's just the principle that I have anyway. Old Flicks Joe writes, how you ever saw the Punisher movie with Dolph Lundgren and thoughts? One of my favorite R-rated comic book movies. I saw it obviously way late. I was one of those people who's like, oh my God, there's the Dolph Lundgren one. I got to watch that. And I'm glad you loved it. I didn't love it. I wanted to love it because I'm a big Dolph Lundgren fan, but it's also not the huge joke that I think it kind of comes across as and portrayed as by a lot of people. I thought it was okay, but I'm not on the same level as you. It's certainly not my favorite R-rated comic book movie, but I'm glad you love it on that level. All right, let's see here. What's next? Oh boy, a whole bunch more have come in. Hold on a second. Here we go. Okay, this next one comes to us from Manuel Fernandez, who writes, you should watch Closer to Truth. The honest interviews numerous scientists and philosophers about big topics like God, cosmos, and consciousness. Very fascinating, and you get various different opinions. All right, man, that's good recommendation, Manuel. Closer to the Truth. Do me a favor, just jump in the chat board or email, whatever. Where's the best place to watch that? Is that on Netflix? Is it on one of the other specialty channels? Do me a favor, jump on in one of the other outlets there. Don't put it in as a super chat, but let us know where we can find it, because that does sound interesting. Let's see. Old Flick Show writes, Escape from New York or They Live. You know what? Escape from New York is probably the better one, but I am a sucker for They Live. I am here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum. Rowdy Roddy Piper, the rowdy one. R.I.P. dude. Anyway, the rowdy one himself. I've got such a sucker soft spot for They Live. So if I had to choose, I can only watch one movie right now. It's either Escape from New York or They Live. I'm watching They Live. I just got too much of a soft spot. And it's got this great fight scene in the alley with the dumpster and everything. Awesome fight. One of the best fight scenes ever, I think. It's just exhausting. Kevin Campbell writes, could Avengers 4 still be Infinity Gauntlet? I think you mentioned this at AMC when they announced Phase 3. It's possible. I don't think it will be at this point. I really don't think it will be. It's certainly possible. Anything's within the realm of possibility. But if we are to take Kevin Feige and the filmmakers at their word, Avengers 4 is going to be a very different movie from Avengers 3. So I'm expecting something different. So I don't think it will be, but hey, anything is possible. Let's see. Goku on DBZ writes, quick question. Have you seen Return to Oz? Which one is Return to Oz? Hold on a second. Let me look this up. There's so many different Oz movies. Oh, God. And there's a 1964 version. There's a 1985 version. Let me just pull this up. If you're talking about the 1985 version... Well, let's be honest. No, I have not seen Return to Oz, either the 64 or the 95 version. So, nope, I haven't seen either of them. Let's see. Fair question, though. Jack Tatum writes, hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, Jack. I've always wondered how a director can work with a script that is just terrible. Can a director still make a great movie if the script is bad? Very difficult. Very difficult. But the director is ultimately the one telling the story. So it all depends on how much flexibility. All directors have some degree of flexibility given to them, but it's just whether do you have a very finite amount of flexibility? Do you have a massive amount of flexibility? The director needs to be the storyteller, right? And look, there are campfire stories that if one guy tells the story, it's lame. But if another guy tells the story, same story, but another guy tells it, it's amazing, right? That's kind of the way I approach, like when I think of directors directing a movie. Yes, you have the script, but they're the ones telling the story. They've got to do the flair and the embellishment and everything else they need to do so that it's communicated in such a way that it works. It is much easier to make a bad movie out of a good script than it is to make a good movie out of a bad script. It's possible, but it's hard. When you're just starting off with bad source material, it makes it difficult. But I believe there are examples of movies that have turned out to be pretty good movies even though they were based on bad scripts. It's possible, it's a tough one. That's a really, really tall order. I mean, it's hard enough to make a good movie just, from scratch, let alone starting off from a bad place. It's tough. It's really, really tough. Justin Ward writes, where's the unanswered super chats from Friday? They were all the unanswered super chats from Friday were in the companion video that I did today. So all the ones for Friday, Saturday and Sunday and this morning were all put into one super chat document and they're all in there. So the one that was aired a little bit earlier today. Darth Impact writes, "Hey John, I have a bunch of questions, but I was watching Revenge of the Sith, and I got a plot hole. How did Maz Kanata get Anakin's lightsaber if Vader cut out of Luke's hand? How?" Well, I don't know. It's not a plot hole though. They just haven't told you how they do it. Look, he cuts off the hand and the lightsaber go flying down. We don't know what happens to it after that. So that Maz found it, that's not a plot hole. That's not a plot hole. They just haven't told us yet how she came across it. But something happens to the hand. Something happens to the lightsaber that gets cut off. They're out there somewhere. Somebody came across and got their hands on it. And somehow, whether that was Maz herself or whether through a chain of events, she ended up with it, it's not a plot hole. It's only a plot hole, let's say, if Vader cut off Luke's hand and Luke's lightsaber popped up and Vader grabbed it and then destroyed the lightsaber, then Maz Kanata having the lightsaber is a plot hole. But it disappearing, and we don't know what happened to it, now we know where it ends up, that's not a plot hole. So yeah, I would say that that's not a plot hole in that one. Just because they didn't explain it in one movie doesn't mean it's a plot hole for it to plop up in the next one. It's only a plot hole if it contradicts information they gave us in another movie. In this case, there's no contradiction. Manuel Fernandez writes, "I would like to start Supernatural thanks to you. However, there's a lot of episodes and I have classes to go to. How should I go about it?" Hey man, look, don't feel like you gotta, there's like, what are they on? Like season 87 right now? You don't have to watch them all in a month. Watch one a week. Watch 2 a week. Watch 3 a week. Whatever. And just know you've got like probably, if you watch like one, you've got like 12 years of cool shows to get caught up on with it. So don't feel, it can be daunting when you're trying to get into a new show or binge yourself into a show that you haven't been caught up on. It can be daunting if there's like 10 seasons and it's 22 episodes a season. That's daunting. But just remember, you don't have, it's not like other shows, or it's not like The Tick on Amazon that's only 6 episodes. 6 half-hour episodes. So in 3 hours, you can go through a season. You don't have to binge it once. You don't have to binge it in a week. You don't have to binge it in a month. You don't even have to binge it in a year. Give yourself 6 years and just slowly start working your way through it, because you got a lot of goodness ahead of you, man. You got a lot of goodness. Eric Wahlberg writes, early trailers showed Iron Man get clobbered by Thanos. I think this is Pepper who dons the armor to help Spidey when she is unable to reach Stark. No reception in the sanctum. She dies. Thoughts? Well, you guys already know that I think Pepper dies. Like, I think Pepper dies. Does she die that way? I don't think so. But it's a valid theory, but I don't know if Pepper's going to play a big enough role to take on a big action piece like that. Although, you know, it is possible. And maybe she gets, something happens to her and the extremist, whatever, however you pronounce it, comes back and whatever. She pops on one of the iron suits to go and help Tony or whatever. And she gets killed as a result of it. Maybe when Thanos is saying, I hope they remember you, maybe he's talking to Pepper. Maybe. I don't think so, but it's a valid theory. So it would be interesting. Then Tony feels really torn up about it, because not only is now the love of his life gone, but she dies in one of his creations. Like, if it wasn't for me being Iron Man and me making these Iron Man suits, she never would have been out there and put herself in harm's way. Now that'll eat at his soul too. So I don't think that's what they're going to do, but there's a lot of really cool possibilities in that theory, Eric. A lot of very good, cool possibilities. Let's see. Paul writes, spring 2007. I've got like 10 minutes left here, guys. Spring 2007, Spider-Man 3 and Pirates 3. Never before and never again I saw back-to-back so disappointing movies. Do you remember any back-to-back disappointment releases? Well, just about a year or two ago, me and a couple guys went and did a double feature, back-to-back, same evening, walked in one theater, watched one of the movies, walked out and went straight into another theater to watch the second of the back-to-back. And it was Seventh Son and Jupiter Ascending. Oh my God. Jupiter Ascending is simply one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. And Seventh Son was no picnic either. Although the guys I was with thought Seventh Son was the worst of the two. I thought Jupiter Ascending was the worst of the two. Either way, we all agreed it was a bad back-to-back. Pardon me. It was a bad back-to-back. So Yeah, there you go. That's by far the worst to me. By far the worst one I've ever done. Okay, let's move on here. David Bilioris writes, fellow Patriots fan, what's your favorite U2 song? Well, my favorite song of all time is Where the Streets Have No Name. I think Where the Streets Have No Name is the greatest song ever written. On several levels. And you don't, like, music is as subjective or even more subjective than movies are. So I'm certain almost everybody disagrees. Everybody has their own favorite song. To me, it's Where the Streets Have No Name. I get chills when I hear that song. And whenever I see U2 in concert and they play it, it's like being in church, man. Like the place comes to life and it's just, yeah, the way, the music of it, that Edge signature ringing guitar style, the lyrics are amazing. It's my favorite song of all time. So yeah, I would say Where the Streets Have No Name. Let's see. Jessica Tennis writes, John, this morning you seemed it was unlikely Black Panther would become the third largest domestic film of all time, passing Jurassic World and Titanic. Want to make a bet? Well, I didn't say it was unlikely. I said it was possible it could definitely catch Jurassic World. Actually, let me bring up the numbers because the numbers are not against it too much here. Let me bring up, let's see, where did it go? All-time domestic. All right, so right now, Black Panther sits at number 5 at 631. Jurassic World's only like $21 million ahead of it. That's possible. It is catchable. 21 million, a little bit more out of reach is Titanic, which is almost $30 million outside of it. So that's going to make it a little bit more tricky. But I certainly don't think it's impossible. It could catch both Jurassic World and Titanic. It will never catch Titanic, I should say. Or sorry, it'll never catch Avatar. And never in a billion years will it catch Star Wars The Force Awakens. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it did catch Jurassic World. I won't be surprised if it doesn't. I won't be surprised. I'd be a little bit more surprised if it caught Titanic because it's got a little bit more buffer there. But I would certainly not bet against it. Like, yeah, I wouldn't bet against it. Not at all. I mean, look, Black Panther made $16 million this weekend. So it is within the realm of possibility that it could hang in there, catch Jurassic World domestically, not worldwide, and catch Titanic as well. Domestically, again, not worldwide. So yeah, I don't want to come across as if I'm saying it's impossible. That it's very possible, and I would not bet against it at this point. So okay, let's see. Next one comes to us from Andres Samanego writes, do you think Captain Marvel will improve Guardians of the Galaxy Ronan the Accuser's motivations in retrospect? I like Ronan the Accuser, and I liked his motivations. Like, he comes from generations of pain. You know, he's seen his family, his own, like, not just his race family, but his family, his father, his other relatives die at the hands of their enemies. And like being helpless. And now he does not want to be helpless. He wants an Infinity Stone. He wants to even go after Thanos, for heaven's sakes. I had no issues with Ronan the Accuser's motivations. I had no qualms with his motivations at all. So could Captain Marvel improve on that? I guess, but it all depends on your starting point of view. If your starting point of view is like mine, that you thought his motivations were really good, not that he had good motivations, but they were like well-done motivations, then I would answer the question differently than you did. If his motivations didn't work for you, then hopefully they will improve for you. For me, I already thought his motivations were pretty damn good, and I was happy with them. So it all depends on your point of view and like where you're coming from as a starting point. Let's see. Final question today comes to us from Christian Reedy, who writes, bigger action star, The Rock or early 90s Arnold? Oh, I don't know. At this point, I'll say early 90s Arnold. But if Rampage, not that it will, but if Rampage gets close to being as successful as Jumanji, and then Skyscraper's a big hit, it doesn't have to be $900 million to be a big hit, but if it makes like $500 million worldwide, just with these two movies adding to The Rock's resume, that could make us revisit the question. Right now, I'll still say Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll still go with the Arnold on this. But Rock, with each hit film, gets closer and closer to that legacy of Arnold Schwarzenegger. He gets closer and closer to it. I don't think he's there yet. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years. For right now, Christian, I will go with the Arnold. For now, and only for now, I will go with the Arnold. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and participating in the show with me. Listen, don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, click on that subscribe button and click the notification bell as well to make sure you get notified of each new video that we have going up here. Also, guys, make sure you're following me on social media simply at John Campea on Twitter. It's a great place to find me. That'll do it for me for now, guys. I'll be back again tomorrow morning for the John Campea Show. Make sure you come back in, get you all caught up with everything going on in the world of movie news, and we have a good time doing it as well. That'll do it for now. My name is John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.